What's up guys, Houndish here, and today, of course, is another busy day on the news front before the final shape. Although given that the final shape accidentally dropped early on PlayStation via streaming earlier, this almost wasn't before the final shape, get your head around that. But today we do get some updates from Bungie. They actually talk about the leaks for the expansion. Obviously this will have been a frustrating one for them, so we have a few words about it. It's also Twid Day, so we get some extra updates regarding the launch of final shape and some additional changes. Plus, Destiny 2 is getting a Dungeons & Dragons Destiny crossover, which is going to be arriving alongside the final shape. There are some very juicy looking cosmetic items with that. And there's plenty more to talk about in the video as always, guys. So without further delay, we'll jump into it. And first up, yes, Bungie speak about the final shape accidentally being released early via PlayStation 5 streaming service today. We did cover this update separately earlier, but the Destiny 2 team had earlier today, a portion of D2's final shape was accidentally pushed live on the PlayStation streaming service, and these are currently spoilers being shared online. A small group of players were able to play some of the campaign, access collections, and other reward info coming in the final shape and echoes. So they say we recommend being very careful on social media over the next few days to avoid spoilers. Remember to exercise caution and be critical of potential misinformation. But they add, be considerate to others and report leaks so that players can experience the conclusion of the Light and Darkness saga themselves. Thanks to all of our community members who've already helped us by reporting leaks and those actively working to prevent more of the experience from being shared before its intended date. It's always extremely difficult when the team's hard work is leaked early, but we're still excited for everyone to experience the full release on June 4th. So obviously a frustrating moment for Bungie right there. And it was a very significant leak in terms of players actually being able to get into an expansion early, although there are very few people who managed to play a significant amount of content. So that in itself is a minor positive. And largely, a lot of the leaks are actually based on collections items, so rewards in the game, which yes, certainly can be spoiler heavy, especially in the instances where things like raid loot get shared, but given the circumstances, I think the leaks that we've had could actually have been a whole lot worse. I'm probably looking on the bright side of this, but again, it's a frustrating one for Bungie, and if you want to remain absolutely spoiler free, that warning is still in place. To be careful on social media, Reddit, things like that, as there are folks still sharing leaks and things associated with the expansion. So that's that. Bungie have said what they need to say, and hopefully we can get through the next few days without anything major being spoiled once again. Next though, leading into the Twid, and Bungie do reveal the next crossover for Destiny 2, a legendary crossover with Dungeons & Dragons. So I'll be completely honest, I do not know an awful lot about Dungeons & Dragons, but it seems pretty fitting. And there'll be D&D inspired armor ornaments as well, as a sparrow, a ship, and a ghost shell. As always, these tend to be bundles and things that we can buy via the Eververse store, but you can see in the background some of the trailer footage for this crossover. The cosmetics do look absolutely wild here, I've got to say, especially I think some of that armor is really cool. So another component which we're going to get access to leading into final shape, and let us know if you're excited about it down in the comment section. Next up though, as we get onto the Twid, Bungie go ahead and give us a preview for the artifact for the final shape. Of course, this will actually be the Echoes artifact, so they say, we want to give you an early look at the artifact perks you can expect on launch day and throughout Echoes. The three elements in focus for the artifact are Solar, Void, and Arc, and we'll also find a focus on melee and swords as well as longer range weapons like sniper rifles. So the artifact itself is called the Hunter's Journal. That looks pretty cool. And in the Twid, there is a chart with all of the perks. We'll read them out right here. I'm not sure if I can display it in the video as it's absolutely mahoosive, but column 1 gets anti-barrier pulse rifle, as well as unstoppable sidearm, unstoppable scout rifle, and then it's going to be overload hand cannon, anti-barrier SMG, with slot 2 having logic reductor, and weapons with radial area transposer, which is an origin trait, will deal increased damage to Vex, and it extends the duration of radial area pools created by the radial area transposer. So a bit of information about the new bonus for weapons, I believe, in Echoes there. There's also Overcharged Armory, and weapons with the Dealer's Choice, Radial Area Transposer, Collective Purpose, and Sundering origin traits are always overcharged weapons for you when the modifier is active. Then there is authorized mod Elemental Charge. The energy cost of Elemental Charge mods are significantly reduced. And Saint's Inspiration, where rounds loaded by the Cast No Shadows origin perk can overflow the magazine. But column 2 also gets Winning Hand, and while using weapons with Dealer's Choice, combatant precision final blows or rapidly defeating combatants cause the target to explode, dealing solar damage to nearby enemies. And having several weapons equipped with that origin trait increases the effect of the explosion. So that sounds cool, and the Dealer's Choice origin trait is the one that we'll get on Pale Heart weapons. Column 3 though, will see Elemental Siphon, rapid final blows with a kinetic weapon or a weapon matching your equipped super, create an elemental pickup that matches your equipped super. There's also Overload Sword, and then Creeping Chill, where Stasis weapon final blows against slowed or frozen targets release a burst that slows, as well as Press the Advantage, and breaking a combatant's shield grants increased weapon stability, handling, and reload speed, with swords gaining increased guard resistance, and Threaded Blast, where destroying a tangle with a strand weapon creates a larger and more damaging explosion. For column 4 though, there's counter energy, and when you or a member of the fire team stuns a champion, you gain energy for your least charged ability, as well as bleed stamina, and rapidly defeating combatants with a sword refunds some ammo. Then we've got a void one, and while you have void or prismatic subclasses equipped, defeating weakened targets provides a small void overshield. Plus there's Radiant Orbs, and while you have a Solar or Prismatic subclass equipped, picking up Orbs of Power makes you Radiant. And finally, Galvanic Armor, and while you have an Arc or Prismatic subclass equipped, incoming damage from combatants is reduced while amplified. But for the final column, we've got Prismatic Transfer, and when you cast a super, each member of the fire team with a different super type gains a bonus to weapon damage. There's also Argent Blade, and while you have Armor Charge, dealing damage with a sword consumes an Armor Charge and empowers the sword for a short time, which gives it bonus damage and energy charge rate. And we have Expanding Abyss, where void sources deal increased damage to weakened targets, as well as Shield Crush, and while you have Woven Mail, Frost Armor, or a Void Overshield, melees charge faster and deal increased damage. And finally, Transference, where we gain increased grenade and melee damage while Transcendent, and weapon final blows while Transcendent refund light and dark energy after Transcendence ends. So I think a bunch of those actually sound pretty good. What do you guys think of the champion mods for the season? Otherwise though, in terms of the weapon mods, and a bunch of the stuff which interacts with subclasses and prismatic, I think they sound pretty cool, and it's nice to have a whole bunch of very new perks in the artifact for a new expansion, of course. So give us your thoughts about those. Otherwise, Bungie talk about the Salvation's Edge World First Race. So there is the raid name, I guess. Of course, it drops on June 7th at 10 AM Pacific time, and for details, contest mode will be available for 48 hours, and will need to be a 1965 power level to be at the cap through all of the encounters. It also says, though, that completing the Final Shape campaign and the Wildcard exotic quest is a requirement to launch the raid. So also mention of an exotic quest right there. Presumably that's going to be a post-campaign thing that we'll probably get access to fairly quick. Bungie have said, though, we've changed the way that we track and recognize world first completions. Fire teams will no longer be required to return to orbit to finish the race, and the first fire team to finish every encounter and loot the final chest will be declared world first and have their victory immortalized. So there we go. More raid details right there. There are also extra details regarding the Twitch Rivals component, the sort of raid watch along that will take place at the same time. So those are linked in the twab below. The twid, we just keep twabbing our twids, we can't help it. But let us know if you're looking forward to that one. And they offer an update for Fireteam Finder, and they say, with Final Shape, they're adding a new voice chat channel for Fireteam Finder lobbies, and players will be able to use voice chat to coordinate their plans and discuss options before launching into the activity. And once in the lobby, players can enter and exit the voice chat in the same way they would normally, so that's certainly a good update to have. And lastly, Bungie talk about the Final Shape Preload, and this will begin on June 3rd, at some point shortly after 10 AM Pacific time, so that's good to know. Look out for it on Monday. They also say, though, that some PlayStation users may be able to pre-download the update starting on June 1st, and this is to decrease server load. So if you are a PlayStation player, probably worth having a look over the course of the weekend. Hopefully that one won't result in more leaks. But there we go, we have the preload information, and of course, the game will be down for a 24-hour period immediately before the expansion drops, so keep that in mind. Monday is pretty much a write-off in terms of actually playing Destiny. For today though, guys, that's the bulk of the Twitch stuff. I'll link it down below if you want to read it in more detail, but as always, I hope the video has been useful and interesting. If it has, a rating really helps us out down below, and let us know your thoughts as always. Otherwise though, stay subscribed and turn on notifications if you want to be kept up to date with everything related to the expansion. And for now, I hope you guys have an awesome day.